Welcome to another edition of PENSDOWN. On this show, journalists who are the news reporters and news presenters become the newsmakers. We turn the tables and put the CCTV cameras on the people who bring you all the news and the shows. Today, I have been joined all the way from Ibadan in Nigeria. That is Oyo State, am I right?
You're very correct.
Fantastic. Oyo State, that is the capital of Oyo State, Ibadan in Nigeria. Some years ago, Ibadan was credited as about the cleanest city in Africa. I don't know about today. Maybe what my guest will tell us what record they hold in 2023. My guest today is a presenter and news editor at Wells Radio, which is a prominent online radio headquartered in Ibadan, Nigeria. Her full profile will be shown to you while we go on with this conversation. Today, I have been joined by Bolanle Oduekun, all the way from Ibadan in Oyo State, Nigeria. Welcome to PENSDOWN.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Some people got into journalism as a childhood ambition, they realized. Others fell into it by accident. What is your own story?
I wouldn't say I got into journalism as a childhood ambition. And I would say also that it was an accident. So let me just tell you my story.
Okay.
I've always listened to the radio, to be honest. I've always been an ardent listener of the radio, not so much print media, but the radio in particular. And I used to find myself wondering, how does the radio station look like? I used to have images in my head. When I think in pictures. When I gained admission into the University of Ilorin in Kwara State, Nigeria, I was to study linguistics. It was a course I really knew nothing, about. I didn't know much about it, except for the fact that it was just about language. And I remember when I was in my 100 level second semester, I was a bit worried. Why? My grades were not as good as I'd expected it would be. I also realized that I didn't really have a passion for the course I was studying. It was about, language, and I really didn't have a passion for it. And I started to think, what can I do? What other thing can I do, or how can I, get my grades and all of that? And I remember that I had a boyfriend then who also supporting me in that idea said, look at your friend. She contested for a teenager program on a radio station, a private radio station here in Ilorin. How about you try to do something like that? And hearing that, I started to make, my findings about the campus radio, because I felt campus radio was going to be better for me, because I was students who, regardless, I still needed to read and get my grades up, right? But I also wanted to pursue an alternate path. So I found out that the campus radio was recruiting volunteers from the student body. And so I went. I and a couple of people, we had interviews done, we had auditions done, and I was a mail that I had qualified to come in and train as a news reporter. So to be honest with you, at first, I didn't like the idea. I wanted to be a newscaster. I wanted to be, hi, my name is Bolanle, and this is the 6 o'clock news. And so when I was told to come in as a news reporter, my goodness, I have to go to the field, actually have to go out and talk to people. I wasn't really an extrovert, but I had a couple of people who met with me outside of the audition to tell me, you know what, you have a good voice. You have brilliant mind from what we can see at this interview. And we think that even though you don't like the reporter aspect of it, take it first, learn what you can, and who knows, maybe you just, get to that newscaster part that you love about this job. And I said, all right, no problem. And that's how I got into, broadcasting and journalism as a whole. And I've never looked back since then.
How many years has it been since you started your romance with journalism?
Let's see. I started in early 2012, and this
Okay,
is 2023.
early 2012.
Yes.
Okay, so 2012 to 2020 is even 8 years. That's about some 11 years ago. In,
Mm.
in these 11 years you've been in journalism, there has been a lot of attrition. So many of our colleagues have abandoned the crafts. Some are pitching their tent in corporate communications, public relations, even politics, and any other thing they may find worthy of joining. From where you sit, what do you think is accounting for this high level of attrition in journalism?
Okay, so I'll start by saying that if you are a journalist or if you want to become a journalist, one thing I always tell people is that don't get into this profession for the money, because let's be frank, there's no money in this profession. I mean, if you want to become a millionaire, if you want to become a billionaire, you're not going to do it by becoming a journalist. So I personally feel that some people have left because they realize that, even though this is my passion, I need to pay my bills, and that's the reality. And so they left. They've moved to public relations will pay your bills for you. If you're the image maker of an organization, your bills will get paid. If you're a politician as well, you make money. If you work with a politician, you make money. That's why you see a lot of journalists scrambling to be the SA on media to the governor of the state or to the president, because there's money there. Journalism, majorly, there may be fame, but there's no money. So for some people, it's about the money. For some other people, it's about the realization that as a journalist, in a way, if you actually want to do your job the way you should, if you want to inform people, which is the bedrock of journalism, you have to come to terms with the fact that you're never 100% safe. You're never 100% safe. And because, take for example, because we don't even look at how this would affect you as a personal person. For example, I have a passion for reporting stories, right? But I have a family. I'm married and I have 2 young kids.
Yeah.
And so every time I bring story ideas, what I do is I, just chat up my mom and say, I have the story idea for this. My mom will say, please, oh, don't forget you have 2 young children at home. Don't write about people that will want to, take revenge. And sometimes, to be honest with you, this sort of changes my perspective. It then makes me see, is this worth going after? Because then I'm not thinking only about myself. I'm also thinking about my loved ones. So that's also another thing. You're never really safe as a journalist anywhere in the world. And finally, I would say that some people who have left never really had a passion for the job. Some people just, they love to hear their name everywhere. Because that's the thing about journalism. If it's about your name being heard everywhere, that's not a problem. Just look for an explosive story and do it, and people are going to hear about you. So some people never really had the passion to begin with, and that's why they've left the profession.
Will you say journalism pays? Does it pay?
If you're talking about in terms of money, no, it doesn't pay. But
Look
in
at it
terms of
holistically.
in terms of the satisfaction you get for informing and educating people, for addressing societal ills, then it pays.
Is journalism your passion, or you just walked into it as your profession?
Okay, so as I told you, I walked into journalism as someone who was just looking for something to explore. However, over the years, I realized that I just have innate need to let people know, to let people know what is happening. I just have that innate feel. If I'm somewhere and something is happening, I want to let people know about it. I understand that the public is made up of different classes of people, and I want to make sure that everyone is able to fully understand what is going on or what that thing is. And so I will say that, yes, it's a passion for me, because to be honest with you, if it's not a passion for me, I might have also dropped down and moved to a more lucrative profession over the years. I mean, I just looked for something else and moved into it.
Is there any particular assignment that for you is a standout assignment, probably for the challenges or for the way it's sapped out your energy or the extent to which it took you before you were able to complete it?
Okay, well, I had this assignment. Unfortunately, that's the funny part. I had this assignment. Eventually, it didn't even go. It wasn't even an assignment from the newsroom. It was something I embarked on my own because I felt that it needed to be addressed. So let me give you the story. Well, I think that was 2015, early 2016, I was fresh out of school, but I wasn't so fresh as a journalist because I had already, prior to that time, I had experience in the radio sector of the broadcast media. I'd had experience in print as well. When I just walked into a newspaper here in Ibadan and asked them, to allow me come in and, just observe what they're doing. And from there, I started working with them, even when I went back to school. Now, in 2015, fast forward to 2016, I was a corps member. So here in Nigeria, we do something that it's called the NYSC. That's the National Youth Service Corps.
In Ghana, we call it national service.
All right. So it's a
one-year mandatory service to the nation.
Yes, it is. And I was posted to Kogi State. And I served at the National Television Authority in Lokoja. Lokoja is the capital of Kogi State.
Okay.
And maybe because of my, I was already experienced in a way, I blended in real quick. And as time went on, I started working, doing more of some of the jobs that, even their staff members were doing. I was already assigned to beats. I was already assigned to beats, to cover stories and all that. And I came up with an idea, which was like my second or third story that I pitched by myself. And it was granted. It was to actually do a story on the landfills. I mean, the waste. I decided to do a story because I realized that, the method the state was employing to get rid of its waste was actually not very safe, even for the people. And so I decided to do a story about that. And I started. It was something that cost me money. It took my time. It drained my energy. It even cost me some friendship because, I had to be at some places. They would just call and say, okay, the malam you want to speak to is there. Will you be on your way? And, I would go there and I did my due diligence. And this is not something that some journalists want to see outside, but I'll just say it. That story at the end of it all exposed me to some of the battles we fight in the workplace. That's in-house between journalists. Okay, so basically what happened at the end of everything was that someone who was not happy about the fact that that story was going to, make waves, deleted all my files. Deleted all my files, my interviews, my photos, my videos, every single thing. All I had was my script.
Now that should have been depressing.
I to be honest with you, I lost the how do you put it now? I lost the how do I put it now? I lost the vibe. After that, I just wasn't interested in doing anything anymore with that organization.
Why do you think somebody to such an extent?
To be honest with you, I don't know. Eventually, I found out who he was. It was a cameraman who I think maybe was not happy with something that happened at our other assignment. So the issue is, how it is, people and the feeling that, because you are a new person or because you are younger, you
shouldn't be shot into the limelight.
Yes, and you shouldn't be able to tell them what to do. When we have a reporter and the cameraman, go out for an assignment, the reporter ultimately is the boss.
Yes.
But I was there. I was just a young 21-year-old, and I guess he felt that I shouldn't have the authority, to tell him what to do. I was pretty young. I didn't hide my age, so everyone knew I was the smallest. I was the youngest, right? And so, to be honest, it just killed any form of, urge, any form of joy I had about working there, and I just knocked it out, lights out.
How did the internal systems within the organization address this issue? Did you raise it? Did you pursue it?
I did raise it. Unfortunately, it was a case of, nobody wanted to believe that anybody, intentionally deleted it or deleted those files. All I was hearing was, oh, it must have been a mistake. Or we don't even know who deleted them. We don't, when I said, but it's this person that always handles the camera for me. It's this person that's always with my tape. So we're using a tape like this. I even have one of them. This small ones.
Yes.
Yeah. So individual reporter would have their tapes, and I had mine. And I don't know. It was just a case of, she's just a core member. She'll get over it, and at that point, I was so discouraged. I just, mentally, I was out of there.
So did it discourage you from working in that environment, or it killed your passion for journalism? Which is which?
Well, it didn't kill my passion for journalism. It only, killed my passion for bringing up innovative ideas in that environment. So I just channeled all of my energy elsewhere.
How long did it take you to recover from this unfortunate incident?
To be honest, it took the rest of my service year. This happened about like 4 months to the end of my service year, and it just took away the rest of my service year, because even the bosses at work complained about it. Oh, she's now lackadaisical. Oh, she would have this editorial meetings, and where before I would speak up and say, oh, I have this ideas. Oh, I have this. And they would ask me, Bolanle, so what do you have for us? And I'll just look at them and say, nothing. I don't have anything, But I would honestly tell you that that's also maybe gave me some time for other things. That was when I realized that I could actually mentor people. I could teach people, the little I already know. I could draw more people into the profession. So then I was in the editorial, we call it CDS, Community Development Service. So I was in the editorial part. We used to have radio programs on different radio stations and all of that. And I started to mentor the people that were a part of that editorial CDS who had not had any form of experience at all. I started to teach them. As a matter of fact, I'd even forgotten that I ever taught anybody during my NYSC year until last week. I went to buy something. I went to buy frozen food, and someone stopped me, at the front of the gate of that place and said, "Are you Bolanle?" I was like, "Okay, yes, I'm Bolanle. I've not really changed much. My face hasn't changed much since my service year." And the person says, "Are you Bolanle?" I'm like, "Yes." He says, "Oh, okay. I'm that young chef that served in Lokoja so year." I was like, "Okay, I'm sorry, I don't remember this face." And then the guy went on to say, "Oh, you taught me a lot about broadcasting. You taught me about, how to speak on the radio. You taught me about how to." I was like, "Oh, really? I can't remember." And and so yes, that was what I used the rest of the service year for. I just tuned out of that place and concentrated my energy on teaching people and training people.
Let's talk about social media. We connected on social media.
We did.
How has social media altered the course of journalism?
Well, it's altered it for good and unfortunately for bad. But we all know that everything in life has its good and bad sides. I'll say for good because up until social media came, journalists were the gatekeepers of information. And unfortunately, the older generation of journalists, I say older generation because I'm still very much young. I'm a young, that person. The older generation, unfortunately, some of them have not stayed true to what it means to be a journalist.
Okay.
In gatekeeping, they've kept information away from the masses, information that is very important, information that the public needs to have. Some of them have colluded with politicians and corporations to keep people in the dark. And so when social media came, we now have the advent of citizen journalism.
Yeah.
We don't have to wait for any newspaper to tell us what happened yesterday, because as it happened, someone is there filming and posting it on social media. So I feel that it's very, very good that, we don't have those gatekeepers anymore.
So in summary, what you mean is that social media has launched the journalism careers of millions untrained across the world.
Yes, we have so many citizen journalists now. I got home yesterday to one of the citizen journalists who shared me a video of, a mentally ill woman who threw herself into the river.
Oh.
And he made a video and sent to me, which I'm writing my story to be published soon. About mental health as related to postpartum depression. So it's really good, I think, that that's one of the good things that social media has done. Make information available to everybody. Nobody gets to decide what information should go out and what information should stay.
Two of the distinguished senior colleagues I have hosted on this show, one of them, in fact, both are Nigerians, Mr. Lekon Tufodorin, one of the distinguished media personalities in Africa. He told me that it looks like journalists have lived in self-denial over social media. Some time ago, there were things like High Five and the rest. They went, they never came back. So probably for journalists, we felt that, okay, let's wait and see whether it will work. And through that, we seem to have been overtaken. And then Dr. Ibrahim Duba, who was a former chief press secretary at the Niger state government, he also said that social media is neutral, it is innocent, it is like a knife. What use you put to it determines the outcome. It can be a good kitchen tool or a stabbing gadget. It all depends on the user. Now, I am putting this as a premise for my next question. Social media has created richer bloggers in Africa than richer journalists. Where did we sleep as journalists, or what did we not do right? Which is why scarcely trained people in the use of media have been able to exact the financial benefits of social media to themselves while we still grapple with the basics.
Okay, so let me answer your question first by saying that you are very correct. Bloggers, news from bloggers are more consumed than from those from authentic media outlets or authentic journalists.
Yeah. And
I think the first reason is because journalists, waved off social media when in the initial phase. Everyone felt, social media is not that powerful. People will still come to us for the news. People will still, wait for us before they actually say, oh, this is the news. But unfortunately, we have, for example, this blogger, Instablog.
Yes.
It's
a popular one. I know about it.
Very popular, making lots of money. And when I see their stories, to be honest as well, I feel sad because you see the way they write, you see their form of investigation sometimes no investigation, too many sensationalism in their headlines,
and
just
pure
to get
gossip.
people. Exactly. And so I think that the first thing is that major media outlets were slow to key into social media, to key into the digital world. Now, also, I will say that, okay, currently I'm pursuing a postgraduate degree at International Institute of Journalism here in Nigeria, Abuja. And I know that one of the things that is always echoed, the major sentiment that is always echoed, is that the Union of Journalists here in Nigeria needs to have a major intervention. A major intervention, just like was done to the law career, that's the NBA. There needs to be a major intervention. There needs to be, I'm not saying that there should be a law, I don't know how it will go, but there needs to be something, that stipulates that you have to register as a media organization. Not only register, you have to be properly trained. Because at the end of the day, so during this my course, I've met with some bloggers who cannot even, I hope they don't watch this, who cannot, write a simple story, who don't know some of the basic terminologies. And so you ask yourself, what then are these people doing? I go to their blogs, I read their stories, and so many grammatical errors. So many, their headline is different from the body of their story. They so many, so many things, some laws and some codes that guides us don't guide them. So I think personally that the Union of Journalists in Nigeria here needs to take a firm stand.
In the line of duty, has there been any time that somebody has offered you something to compromise the work you are doing, monetary or material?
Well, not really. And I say not really because you know that sometimes people actually look at your disposition before they offer you things like that. Right. They know who to offer it to. They know who to offer it to. If you're going to cover a story or you're investigating a story, and the way you're even, cozying up to them and lobbying, already your body language already shows that you won't mind, collecting a little something. Then they offer it to you to test you, right? And so I think because my body language, whenever I go somewhere, is purely professional. And so I have been offered money, yes, but not to influence anything. Okay. Just money, here you go, thank you for coming, or,
brown envelopes.
It could have been white as well. Look, so, brown envelopes are significant with bribes. Right? Okay. When it comes to so not brown envelopes, please.
Right.
But here you go, thank you for a job well done. But what I always say is that before you accept that kind of money, ask yourself, will it influence the way I report my story? That's very important. And in the cases where you can't even, decline, there's some cases that you can't decline. Imagine that I maybe interview the governor of my state or the president, or I do something. So that's one thing you need to ask yourself, will collecting this money affect the way I report my story? If it will affect it, and if it's a case where you can, reject the money, I would say, please do. Our integrity is something that once it is lost, it can't be gotten anymore. Or you have to work very hard to get it. As a journalist, once your integrity is lost, it's very, very difficult to get it back. So so I've only had cases where someone gave me some money, that person, a very prominent person in the States, a commissioner actually, and I took the money and I was doubting. I was like, should I take this money? Should I return this money? But of course it wasn't even a scenario where I could return the money. The money was even given to me by the person himself. He sent someone. And all I did was when I got back to the newsroom, I reported the money to my superiors, to say, okay, this is what I've, come up with, but I was given this. And eventually I was told to keep it, it's your for a job well done. But that didn't influence the way I reported. Not that there was anything bad to report, but it didn't influence the way I reported.
But even going forward in future, if something should happen to the person, won't you look the other way? Well, sometimes it's not the immediate effect, but
So,
something happens,
well,
the person gets into trouble and you realize, oh, yesterday he gave me chicken to eat. Maybe let me pay deaf ears to it so that he doesn't see me as an ingrate.
okay. So, as I said, when you take money from someone,
Yeah.
whether the person is not related to you, or even if the person is related to you, as human beings, we have this innate feeling of indebtedness to the person, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if your father pays your school fees, you are grateful to him and you feel like you have to do well in school. Same as a journalist if you take money from someone. However, this is where our conscience comes into play. If that person, gets into trouble or does something bad, as a journalist who then now has this feeling of, but this person gave me money some time ago and I don't want to write something bad about them. I would say that the best way to go about that is to reach out to the person to hear their side of the story, their unfiltered side of the story. So when you're reporting what has come to public knowledge, but you're also reporting the person's side of the story.
All right. If we are to roll back the hands of time, 15 years, are you still going to choose the path of journalism?
That's a very let me just say this, that as a woman in journalism, it's not been easy. It's not been rosy. Yeah. As a mother who's a journalist, it's not been rosy. I can say that the past 5 years, has been very challenging. Having to, deal with mom guilt when I have to be away from my children because of my work hasn't been easy at all. Having to also deal with career guilt, let me put it that way, at times when I've had to stay at home with my kids and not go and do my work has also not been, easy. My children, this is what I'm saying. So my children are here now. They're back from school, and the feeling of not even being able to pick them from school, is not, so here's my daughter.
That's right.
So, I will say that as a woman in journalism, it's never easy. There are so many ways in which, we are being sometimes moved aside. There's so many privileges that you're supposed to get generally as a journalist, but as a woman, you're overlooked. It's not easy for women in journalism. So to be honest with you, 15 years from now, I don't know. I may have succumbed to the feel that motherhood is greater than being a journalist for me. And so I may have left the field. Or I may have, come to terms with the fact that my passion for my career can sustain it.
Have you ever, has your life ever been threatened in the line of duty?
No. And that is because I have tried to stay as safe as possible. It's not something I'm proud of. It's not something I'm proud to say as a journalist, because regardless of, the situation, you should be able to go out there and, be available to do whatever it is. But on a safe side, I have had to play it safe. I've had to, distance myself from threatening situations. If there are situations that I feel that are threatening to me, I, as a person, I refer my colleagues who I feel that, okay, they have what it takes to do it. So yeah, I've not necessarily been in a situation where, I've been threatened. Oh, well, not as a journalist, but I've been in a situation where I've been threatened. During the elections in 2015 in Kogi State, I was a corps member, and a corps member who had training as a journalist. I was hell-bent to see that no form of vote buying was going to occur at my station. You know how elections can be, especially in Africa, especially in Nigeria.
Yes.
And I was threatened. I was told that I was going to be beaten. I was going to be waylaid if I didn't keep my mouth shut. and if I didn't keep my mouth shut and let them go on with what they wanted to do. I eventually put a phone call through to the number we were given. Then there was the SARS. They were still in operation in Nigeria. They were given a number, and so I called and reported the threats to my life. And they came through. They came through. They came in to make sure everyone was in order. And eventually, nothing happened to me. Glory to God.
Wow. Any golden memories that you want to share? These 11 years and more counting. What will you say represent your golden memories?
My golden memories, to be honest with you, is not necessarily about the stories I've covered on the job, but the people I have met on the job, the people I have met who have mentored me, the people I have met who have made my job easier, the people who I have met who have shown me the way to go. I've had so many mentors. I'm a product of a lot of people who chose to give me their time, who chose to give me their professional advice. I'm a product of all of those people. So many names if I start to mention. So these are the things, this is what I hold dear to my heart. So those are my golden.
Okay. Political ownership of the media. We have a lot of politicians and politically exposed persons setting up media houses. Are we sitting on a time bomb? Africa is a fledgling democracy. Is there a reason to be worried, or we are in safe hands?
We are not in safe hands. There are so many reasons to be worried, because political ownership of media houses is starting to influence the way in which media houses, report. Media generally, journalists shouldn't have to pitch their tent either to the left or to the right. We are meant to report balanced views of the story, which means we are meant to report what the left-hand side is doing and what the right-hand side is doing, and leave it to the public to form their opinions. That is what we are meant to do as journalists. But now that, we have politicians, because I even have issues with the price of media ownership in Nigeria. So own a radio station, you have to first part with at least somewhere between 10 to 15 million naira for a license which will only be signed by the president. That tells you something. The media is not free.
Yeah.
The media is not
the highest bidder.
The highest bidder, who then uses it as a tool, as a means to an end. So we are sitting on a time bomb, which is why I am happy that citizen journalism has, risen up. But unfortunately, we also have to look at the bad side of citizen journalism. Fake news, targeted disinformation, misinformation as well. That's also the bad side of, social media and citizen journalism.
Yeah. Are you doing journalism for life?
Sir?
Are you doing journalism for life?
That's a question I can't answer. I can't predict how the next 1 hour of my life is. How do I predict how the rest of my life will be?
But if you have the choice to make, is it going to be a lifetime affair? Will you make it a till death do us apart type of arrangement?
Definitely. Journalism is a career, because it's not a job to me. It's a career that I have a lot of passion for. It's a career that at several times in my life I've had to give up things and people for. And it's something that I would definitely love, because at the heart of it all, for me, is informing the people.
Let's look at the role of journalism in national development. Should a journalist have an opinion on a national matter, or they should just be purveyors of information for the public to decide?
Well, as journalists, we are human beings.
Yes.
We are human first, and we definitely will have an opinion.
Yes.
No matter how much we lie and say, oh, I'm just reporting, the bare facts for people to see.
Yes.
We all have inbuilt biases.
Yes.
Towards you. And so while I say yes, journalists should be. However, as a journalist, when maybe you're reporting this, report the bare facts. If you at any point have to report your opinion, let them know that that is your personal opinion. Because a lot of journalists are not aware of the power they have on the public, the power they wield on the public. As a journalist, when people trust you, if you say the sun is shining, even when it is raining, people will believe you.
Yeah.
So yes, we're allowed to have opinions because we're all in the system and we have opinions about things. But present to people all of the sides, and then you can then tell them, but this is my opinion. But leave them to go form their opinions. Don't let your opinion influence your reporting or your writing.
Let me pull the brakes here. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Today on PENSDOWN, we travel to Oyo State, Nigeria, the headquarters, Ibadan. That reminds me, I mentioned something at the beginning. Ibadan some years ago was Africa's most beautiful city. What is the story today?
Ibadan is still beautiful. Might I say, still beautiful. Maybe not the cleanest.
Wow.
Maybe it may not be the cleanest. Definitely not the cleanest. However, there's been an improvement. From previous years, the current governor or the current government, let me not say the governor, I don't know the governor from anywhere, it's just the governor. But the current government, I see, is putting in more effort to actually beautify Nigeria, to beautify Ibadan, fixing up roads, ensuring that people, people deposit their waste where they should, but we still have a long way to go.
Bolanle Oduekun has been my guest today on PENSDOWN. She is a news presenter, news editor at Wells Radio, an online radio station that is headquartered in Ibadan, Oyo State, Nigeria. Thanks for your time today on PENSDOWN.
Thank you so much for having me.
Right. We are back next time with another edition. I'll have another colleague join us, and the subject matter will still be the same. Journalism journeys. That is all we do here. It is solely dedicated to telling the storyteller stories. That is our interest. We'll be back next time with another edition. Be sure to subscribe, and bye for now.